Okay. Hi guys, my name is Al-Asaad. I'm a consultant here in Ottawa. I do Vista development and some of the AI stuff, sometimes .NET project as well. And today I'll be talking about the Agile project management in Team Foundation Server 2012. I've recorded some videos for hands-on visualstudio.com, and it's part of an initiative that was started by the Microsoft Middle East and Africa AI Community. And we recorded some hands-on lab and we posted them on YouTube and that website. So I'm using their template, and I had to add my picture on the template. And I'm always worried that whenever I see my picture on a slide, I'm always worried that when I look at it, I'm going to see something like this. Like somebody will change my picture to something funny. So so this is the agenda for tonight. I'll start by introducing Team Foundation Server, just quickly explaining what it is, and next I'll do a quick overview and introduction about the Scrum methodology, and then I'll do a demo, and within the demo I'll show the workflow for the backlog work item or the user story work item. And at the end, I'll have a quick, or just a question and answer period. So I'll start by asking a question. Who's using any version of TFS right now? Is anybody using TFS2012? Oh, cool. Okay. Okay. When I'm introducing TFS to those who never heard about TFS before, they will think it's just a replacement of Visual Source Save, which it is. But they will also say that it's only a source code repository and nothing else, which is not. Now, TFS is like a bunch of components that work together in the TFS ecosystem, and they allow like all the team members to work together collaboratively to deliver a project. So it has a piece for project management to manage your requirements, the project requirements. It has that source save repository thing as well. So not source save, but the version control repository. Like you can manage your test cases, you can run build automation, continuous integration. You have access to, it gives you access to some reports as well, like some reporting to see the health of your project. It also integrates with other components on other products, like SharePoint, Blend, Office, like in Excel. You can use Excel to view your work items and see or run some reports based on your work items. It also integrates with Visual Studio, and it also comes with an API that you can use. Like if all the tools that are provided to you don't do what you want, you can always write like .NET code and consume those APIs to do your own thing. Who's using the Scrum methodology right now? Okay, so it's good to do an introduction about the Scrum methodology. So this is the Scrum. No, this is the Scrum basically workflow that Microsoft Scrum process follows. And in the Scrum methodology, there are 3 roles or 3 actors. There is the Scrum Master, who's the bully basically, who has to get things done. You have the product owner or representative of the product owner, and you have your dev team. Now, in In the Scrum methodology, you have that container that's called backlog. Now, in the backlog, the product owner tells a user story. Like he basically says, or she, the product owner will just say, basically, I want a list screen of certain things. So that's just a user story. It's just plain English or whatever language they speak there. And that user story is just added and stacked into the backlog in that container. Now, every now and then, the three actors will have a meeting called a sprint meeting. And in the sprint meeting, usually it's done like a sprint is an iteration. You can just call it an iteration. And the duration of that iteration or that sprint, it ranges between a week to a month. But you want to keep that shorter so you can plan it well. So in that meeting, they decide based on a priority list which user stories will be implemented for that sprint. And then you have that long cycle, which is your sprint duration. And during that duration, the dev team or the product team will do their daily activities, whether it's design, implementation, testing, Scrum meeting, stand-ups meeting, and that happens usually the first thing in the morning, and it's a time box, 15-minute meeting, where everybody in the team needs to answer 3 questions: what I did yesterday, what I'm doing today, and if I have any impediments or obstacles or issues that preventing me from doing something or completing my task. And if that person has an issue, then it will be discussed after the meeting. So now when the sprint is done, the team has to deliver something to the stakeholder. So it's deployed, and then you get a feedback from the stakeholder or the product owner. And then that feedback, whether it's bugs or improvements or anything, it will go back to the backlog as a user story. Or if it's even a user story or a bug work item. Okay, so I'll start the demo now, and in the demo I'll cover how TFS can help you manage your Scrum methodology, or how TFS can help you manage your project using the Scrum methodology. So I'll be discussing and showing how TFS can manage your backlog, sprints, like other work items, how you can break the sprint into the backlog item or the user story into tasks, you assign tasks. There are certain things like that I'll talk about and explain while I'm doing the demo, like the team capacity. You can also like TFS will also provide you with reports to show the health of your project. And there's another feature. One of the new features in TFS Update 1 is the Kanban board. I'll show that as well, and the task board, which also existed in the like pre-update 1. Okay. Okay. Who uses web access in TFS 2010 or a prior version of 2012? Do you see it useful? That much useful? Perfect. Because it has been revamped, redone in 2012, and to open it is basically from Team Explorer. You click on Web Access. That will launch your project web portal, your web access in your favorite browser. Now, the first thing you'll notice here that, like on the left, it tells you which sprint you're running at this time. Like for this product, it's currently at the third sprint or sprint number 3. And it shows you the duration of that sprint. So it starts from May 7, ends on May 18. And it shows you the number of hours that it's basically the capacity of your project.
let's say how many hours your team can commit for this project. So in this case, it's 42 hours within the 2 weeks. So yeah, in this for this project, they're running 2 week sprint. So they're committing 42 hours, and we're assigning tasks that worth 39 hours. So there's still room for 3 more hours there. Also, the team favorites, those are just TFS queries, like work item queries. And it just tells you here basically how many, the recent check-ins, we have 11, that gives you just quick stats about the last, I don't know how many numbers you built there, but basically they were successful or broken or partially complete because they're all color-coded. And how many user stories you have in the backlog, which is 9, and like other information like sprint backlog, how many work items in the sprint backlog, which include tasks. This is why you see the number of work items in the sprint backlog higher than the user story one, because you have only 9 user stories while the sprint backlog has also tasks, because the user stories were broken into tasks later on. There's also that new feature in TFS2012, it's called feedback. So now from the web access, you can send, or the dev team or the Scrum Master can send a request for a feedback for either the product owner or maybe any other member in within the team. So basically you send an email to that specific person or stakeholder, and you specify, if it's a web application, you specify the URL there. If it's a client application, you provide a path of executable. In this text box, you provide the steps to launch the application. And in here, you just ask your question: what's the first item you want to ask about? And here you explain what exactly you're asking about. You can add more items to your feedback. So it's not just one item you can ask, but you can add more than one item. Also, the web access, you'll see the activities on the right-hand side. You have the backlog. You can just your backlog container. Yeah, the task board. You can have you can view the work items you have, whether the bugs, other user stories, or other type of work items. You can go to your SharePoint project portal and your SSRS reports or Open Visual Studio. And it shows you the team member list of that team as well. And from here, you can add new members or remove existing members. It also shows you the burn down chart for your tasks. Okay, so the first thing you do when we're starting a project with the Scrum methodology is, after we define our, it comes predefined with your backlog, but the next thing we want to define is our sprints. The number of the length of the sprints, and maybe the name of the sprints if we want to. So in here there is the link to configure the schedule, and in here we're defining our sprints. So we have sprints 1 to 6, and those sprints are defined for the release 1 iteration. Now you'll notice that for each sprint, we're defining the start and end date for that one. And that's very important because when we view the backlog, or we go to or we open TFS, it will show you, it will use the current system time to let you know which sprint you're in. So you can't just say, I defined sprint 1 to be from the start of this week till the end of next week, and it passes after that. So you don't change the sprint manually. It will change automatically based on the current time. So you need to be careful that if you're stretching you can't just say I want to stretch my sprint without actually modifying your sprint length. But we're not supposed to do that. And if you're using the Scrum methodology, what you do if you run out of time, you will remove like the user stories that don't work or they're not 100% done, and move them back to the backlog for the next sprint. So we defined our sprints. So the next thing we do is we go to the backlog. Now, when we go to the backlog, the first thing you'll see here is a list of user stories. And they're just plain English, like service rep can view service ticket. So it's just pure English. There's no technical specs, there's no database, nothing. It's just like a user story. You'll notice in the left that you have like 3 groups, like past, current, future, and your sprints will be listed there. And as I mentioned, it will use the current time to specify which sprint will go to which group. I'm using a VM that was provided by Brian Keller from Microsoft. So the dates will be, it's shifted, so it already resets the date to May 16, 2012. So that's why you may find it a bit off, 6 months off. Yeah. The other thing when in your backlog is the order is very important. The higher the user story it is, the higher priority it is. So the first user story in this list, it has the highest priority. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just add a new user story. And there are 2 types of items in the backlog. You can either have a bug or a product backlog item. So I'm just gonna say I want a super cool feature, which is this. I'm just gonna say it's a super cool feature, and then click enter. Now the thing you'll notice here, I don't know if you notice that or not, but the item will be added above the selected item. So in this case, I had item number 6 selected, so it will just add the new item, like right above it. And if I have the last item selected, it will add it underneath it. But I can always reorder this by using drag and drop. So I can just move it up to be my first item, and it will modify the order to be 1. So that's my item is at the highest priority now. So I'm going to open this the new work item I just created, or the new backlog item, and in here, just the old TFS, you can just assign it to somebody. I'm going to assign it to Julia. And I'm going to change the status to be approved. And there's this field that's called effort. Now, in the Scrum methodology, the effort field, it can be defined in points. It can be defined in hours, days, whatever you want, as long as it's relative to the other work item. And the effort field defines the complexity of that task or that user story. So the higher the number is, the more complex it is. And it's just a way to measure, like when you're planning your sprints, you want to see how complex that user story is. And you should define that complexity yourself. Like nobody can tell you, it could be like how many, like the number of tasks, the interaction, like there are different criteria that can define the complexity of that user story. So for now, I'm just gonna say it's number 8, and I'm gonna save and close this. Now, in the state field, I can only see approved, new, and removed in here, and I'll explain the workflow now since we're talking about it. So I'm gonna switch back to PowerPoint and talk quickly about this. Okay. So this is the workflow of a backlog, like work item or user story. So when the product owner tells you the story, we enter it, or the team will enter it with a state of new. So it has a state of new, and then if the product owner approves it and say like, yeah, I'm good with it like as is, after we discuss it, the state was changed to approved. Now, if the requirements change and the product owner no longer wants that user story, it will we can change the state to remove. Like, I don't know if you remember, or you know, with TFS you can't remove a work item. It will stay there. You just have to change the state of it. It will not be visible in your logbook and your backlog because it has the state of remove. So you just change the state to remove. Now, if the product owner later on wants to instantiate it, you change the state back to new, remove it, then it's removed. Now, from the approved state, if the dev team, and let's talk about software. If the dev team decides to commit for that user story in a specific sprint, so we change the state to committed. Now, if the work stopped because of more requirements are added, we have an impediment that we didn't account for, then it goes back to approved. And if it's done or complete, the user story is complete, we change the state to done. And if we add more tasks to that done, like the user story with the done state, we change it back to committed. I hope you didn't get dizzy yet. Yeah.
And this is the backlog we're looking at was in the current sprint, right?
No, the backlog, well, it's just a backlog. It's the general backlog. It's the huge container. We didn't assign it to a sprint yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well. Okay, so I'll be back now. So back to the demo. So yeah, this is just the product backlog. Yeah, but the product backlog is selected at the top. Yeah, maybe I didn't explain very well. Yeah, so you have the first thing is the product backlog, and then you have a backlog, the sprint backlog when you click on a specific sprint. Okay. Yeah, I'll show the Kanban like in like towards the middle of the demo. Okay. So the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna assign this a user story to a sprint. Now, from what we learned like a few minutes ago, is when we assign a user story to a sprint, it has to be done with it like during a sprint meeting. So I'm doing something wrong now because what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna assign it to the current sprint, which we're not supposed to do, but it's just because it's an example, I'm gonna just do it. So, and the way you assign it to a sprint is you just drag and drop. Or if you want, you can change the iteration path manually, but I guess drag and drop makes it easier. Now, notice that it's still in your backlog, right? It didn't disappear. That's because it's not committed yet. We didn't change the status of that work item or that user story to committed. Once it's in the committed state, it's no longer going to be visible in your backlog. I know I want to show something here. Yeah, one of the features here is it's primitive and simple forecasting, but what the tool can do is it can forecast which user stories can go to which sprints by turning, like at the top right side, there's the forecast feature is off. If I turn it on, it will tell you basically based on the velocity of your team. And the velocity means how many points can your team execute in a sprint. So in the default is 10. So in this example, my team can execute 10 points work items of like the total work user story points. The maximum would be 10. Now you can change it from here to, let's say I'm gonna do 35. Notice it's gonna update like automatically, and it's basically saying that these user stories can be assigned for sprint 4. This is 5, and the last one will go to 6. It's just forecasting. It didn't commit it yet. You have to do the work manually, like by drag and dropping those user stories. So I'm going to turn it off. And the add item is basically, it will hide the add user stories dialog. And here in the top, at the top, you'll see the other 3 bars. That's because we only have, this is the 3rd sprint. So it shows you the history of your team. So it shows that in the first sprint, like the team executed, was able to deliver work items or user stories with a total complexity of 35. The next sprint was 42. And in the current sprint, so far they delivered 18, or they completed 18. And there's still 23 either in progress, or they're waiting for them in the sprint backlog. Okay, I'll go to the sprints backlog. So in here you'll see that some of the user stories, they're already broken down into tasks. Some of them are done, others are in progress, and some of them still in the to-do state. You can collapse those user stories if you don't want your screen to be crowded. And in here, it again shows you the duration of the sprint, the start and end date, and how many work days remaining. Today is the 16th, and the sprint ends on the 18th. Yeah. Sure. You're welcome. So in here, yeah, it shows you the start and end date of your sprint, and it shows you how many days left or remaining in your sprint. So in this VM, the date is the 16th of May, and the sprint ends on the 18th of May. It also shows you the burn down chart for that sprint. So it says basically here that this sprint started with work items worth of, I can't see the exact number, but somewhere between 100 and 120 hours, and we're supposed to end on the 18th of May. So if you're below that, you want to be below that line. You don't want to be above that line at any time. But again, because you're running, there could be a task that's taking too long and it will be committed today. So that line may just drop sharply by the end of the day when you complete your current tasks. So in here, it basically tells that there's almost 39 hours of work remaining, which is what it shows in here. So another view would be that the team capacity is 42 hours, and 39 hours of the 42 hours are there are tasks that worth 39 hours of work. Now you also have another diagram here for the based on activities. Right now, all the work items or the tasks they don't have any activities assigned to them, but the activity is if it's deployment, development, implement, think testing. Um, so if I open one of those, here it is. One of those tasks. So the available activities are deployment, design, development, documentation requirements, and testing. So it will break down that chart based on the activities you have. Now, the last group is it's grouping all the tasks by a team member. So it tells you that for each team member, like for Annie, it has she's working on like, her capacity is 9 hours, and she's working on 6 hours worth of tasks. And same thing for Brian and the other team members. Now, in here, there's also another tab called capacity. Now, in the capacity, it tells you how many hours each team member is committing to this project. So let's say you have a team of employees or developers, and they're working on multiple projects. So in this case, for this project, Annie's committing only 3 hours a day, and she's working on other stuff or other projects for the rest of the day. You can also define days off as well in here. So if, let's say I'm taking a day off, you can just specify the dates here. I'll go back to the backlog. And one other view here is the cumulative flow. And it basically shows you all the work items, all the user stories, and okay, yeah. So it shows you the number of work items, that the absence, the number of work items, or the work item counts, and the duration of your sprint, and shows all the state of it. Color code all the user stories based on their state. The difference between new and approved is not that clear, but they're both gray, but one of them is a bit darker than the other one, but I can't tell from here. Yeah.
You have to do it just on a sprint basis like that, or is there a place where you can just say, for this employee, they've got a holiday book, you know, for these days, and whatever sprint that is.
Well, it seems that you can do.
If you change sprints or something, like
yeah.
later on, it'd be nice just to have that
yeah.
fixed.
I'm not sure, but from here I can I'm not sure if there's validation. Like, let's say we're outside of the sprint. Let's say I want to take time off in June 14th. I'm not like, yeah, so it does. So yeah, it has some validation. I don't know if I go back to here. I think, but from this screen you can only add or remove users. You can't define any time off. Sorry? I'm not sure. I'll check that though. Connectivity to Outlook. Like to send an email from here and
No,
to lunch.
like be able to calendar, for example, like all this stuff could be in your calendar, right?
I'm not sure if there's an extension there that will allow you to do that. No.
There's a third party login. I know that you get for anyone which gives you it's called that you can give you the more look at your information.
Okay.
I haven't seen what they've done for this yet, but they do have it for so
Okay.
that may be what they're looking
There's a man.
No, you just Googled it? Okay. Oops. Yeah, I'll go back to the backlog. And what I'm going to show now is the new feature in TFS update 1, which is the Kanban board. And in the Kanban board, it will show you all your user stories, and it will and it will group them based on their state. So new, approved, committed, and done. And one of the things that it shows in here, because you don't see them in the list, they're in boxes. You'll see like who is it assigned to, who, and the number and the complexity of each user story. But the nice thing about View, you can tell who's free and who's working, like who has like overwhelmed with tasks. So for example, Brian here is like really overwhelmed with tasks, so you can tell that that could be a concern. The other thing is, in here you can limit the number of user stories in a specific state. So you don't, like, if you're worried that your employees will be doing context switching a lot, like between tasks, and you're worried that will make them inefficient, so you can limit the number of, just an example in here, like limit the number of committed to be 3. So you don't want your team to work on more than 3 user stories at any given time. Yeah, so the next thing I'll do is I'm going to move this user story from the approved state to the committed. See, the tool only going to change the color to red to warn you and tell you that it's over what you wanted. Like it's at number 4, there are 4 work items or user stories instead of 3, but it will not prevent it. So it's just giving you an information just in case you say, you know what, I have to have this there right now. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break that user story into tasks. So I'm back to the sprint backlog, and okay. I can do this in multiple ways. I can either go to the tasks. I can open the user story and go to the tasks tab and start adding them here, or there is a little plus sign here where I can click, and that will add a task as a child work item to that user story. So in my cool feature, I need the UI needs to do this, or okay, I need an add button for add button in the toolbar, and I want to assign it to who's busy here. Let's see. I'm just going to do camera, and the state is to do, and the remaining work, this is in hours. So the remaining work is in hours. I'm just gonna say 10 here. This development and save and close. Like, notice because I assigned it to Cameron, and the capacity of Cameron is only 15 hours, and I added 10 more hours to his 15-hour schedule. So it shows that Cameron has work items that will take 25 hours to complete, while his capacity is only 15. The other thing, it tells you that your team capacity is only 42, and you're assigning tasks that will take 49 hours to complete. So it just raises the red flag, like right away. Again, it's not going to prevent you from doing it. It's just giving you the information. So what I'm gonna do is again, this is not best practices, but I'm just gonna move, because we work on the current sprint, right? I'm gonna move that like one of the committed user stories back to the backlog. So now we're in green again, except Cameron is not. So I'm just gonna change this to 3 and assign it to Anna. I think Anna is good. Yeah, Anna's good. So we're under task here, but I guess it's okay. Well, you can have multiple tasks, right? Like the user story can have multiple tasks. You can. Then why don't you split the task into 2 tasks? I mean, you can have subtasks if you want to, but a task should be assigned to somebody. Like instead of having. Sorry. Okay, but you can always have multiple tasks for one user story. Yeah, I covered those. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to show is the task board. Now there is another board at the top, board tab at the top, which is different than the product backlog board. So in here, this one shows you the task breakdown for your current sprint. I'll zoom out for a second just to show the whole picture. Well, I think no, it should be fine. No, I don't need to zoom out. It's basically, it shows you a list, like it's breaking down or grouping all your tasks based on their state. At the same time, like at the top is your state, on the left side is your user story. So all the tasks in this row belong to the same user story. All the tasks on this like in one column belong, like they have the same state. One of the things you'll notice in this board, it will roll up all the hours for a user story. Like here you have, for this user story, 3 hours. And for each, and for example, the in progress, there are tasks that will take 13 hours to complete in that state.
But is there a baseline? Like in the concept of, say, Microsoft project would be a baseline for each one of these tasks, so that as the estimates change or the amount of time the task drags on, you have a reference back to the original estimate?
Well, you can add, there's an extension for MS Project, and that will add another tab on the work item. It's for the project management. So I would say yes, but what if well, as long as the project manager doesn't change that time, then I guess it's okay. The other thing is for each work item, there's a history as well. So if I open, let's say, that I'm just going to say this one. Well, I guess it's a bad example because it doesn't have a history. But if I change, I'm just going to change this to 4 now and hit save. Yeah, here they are. So you can always go back and see what has changed. But so if you go to the first one, you can tell. It's just you have to go and find that change. In this view, you can change the time, the assigned time from the board itself. You can either change the value using the keyboard or by selecting a value from the drop-down. you can also change the person like the assigned to field, and you can also do drag. Oops. You can also drag from one state, like from one state to another, or add a new task as well to that user story. So oops. What I'm gonna do is show one more thing is, so if you drag and drop those like let's say in progress tasks, notice that I don't know if you can see it or not, but at the top here the burn down chart actually is updated while you're doing the changes, like without even clicking on it. Like when you click on it, it will magnify it for you and it will show you the lines. And if I click on, like in here as well, there is, you can color code the ones that you want. You can color code the tasks that are assigned to a specific person. So if I say I want to see, I'll color code the ones or highlight the ones that are assigned to Annie, and by selecting her name from the drop down, they will just be color coded. Like they will be in blue, while the other ones will be in, the other tasks will be in gray. Now there's another view for the board, is when you click on team members, it will group them by team member. So on the left side, instead of the story, the user story, it will be the team member, and at the top is the state of the task.
It's unfortunate that I'm sure the payment is done. You would have been competition.
Probably. Well, if they're done by like all the tasks, they don't have anything assigned to them, everything isn't done, then they won the race, I guess. Yeah. Like, see, yeah.
Can I ask you a spoiler question? So it's done.
Sure.
Is there a link between this and the source control in that if you remove a feature, it'll be smart enough to remove it from that version? It's not that.
But if you're,
And I know it would be almost impossible to do, but it would have been so cool.
that would be probably a branching strategy.
Yeah.
Like if you've done your branching to like a feature base or user story base, but okay, I guess. Yeah.
Let's say you have the release plan for 2 months ago, the sprint is visible with analysis. Specifically, yeah. Then the second one is going to be done by type of development of it. It's going to go 2 weeks.
It doesn't work that way. Like you're at the end of each
Even if I
sprint,
break it to a point, but in fact, it will be crazy.
Yeah.
There will be a feature or something that's going to take it. If you're writing something with web servers or some control, which is super important, no matter how you write the task itself, you want it to complete, to give something that will feel good. And then take more than you sprint about. How do you do that?
Give the name of the task something appropriate in the first time. And give it enough
And you
time.
part one, part two, but you're not delivering. You're not going to be able to deliver. Because if you have a finished, you're not going to fulfill it. This is not going to be finished.
well, when you add your user story that's supposed to do something, you're the product owner who is supposed to write what he wants that user story to do. You need to have everything done before it's considered to go to a sprint. If the customer doesn't know what he wants in that user story, then it's too bad. Once they figure out what exactly, it's not part of your, the sprint is mainly for your product development, not for your product.
So you're not considering sprint for something like that.
If they want their own sprint that goes deliver a page a week, that's their thing.
So you're only looking at the sprint only for development? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I can give you an example of a range of examples. We were working on mobile hotmail. Our team decided to introduce Scrum and Agile, where they were doing very traditional dollar signs. So you get a task, basically, build a backend for hotmail. Yeah, nice and easy, right? And you're like, okay, so what do we do is like, I think I don't think we break it down into high level items. And we use the t-shirt card model. So small, medium, large, extra large, and you decide on it. So I throw a feature, my team does it. If that doesn't fit, that tells me as a scrum master or the project leader that wasn't granular. And we break it down to the point where, yes, you actually, the whole purpose of data science is you are going to ship something. Now, ship doesn't mean construction necessarily. You can only stay the environment as a shipping system. We break it down to something that's actually tangible by the end of the sprint, so you can start getting feedback. So the first version that we wrote from over Hotmail, we actually had, you can see a list of different. If it was not connected to the database, it did not pull live, it literally was a stud out list of email that wasn't mobile phone. We shipped that in a week, the owners looked at it like, actually, I'd like it to look like this, I'd like it to be able to do that, and we're starting to get a little feedback before we spent all that time writing it back and figuring out the data model. So that's the whole point, break it down to literally something you can deliver, and it's tough to do at first. It's when both of us have done large project management, you've used on this project or whatever, and you've got the whole next year planned, and that is a huge shift to go from I'm finding big things on up front in a 4-year sprint, like massive, right? To
Actually, I'm done my presentation. I'm ready to take any other questions. Is there any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So in this backlog I get through all of the release one, I'm just wondering how this needs the releases, the product owner, slotting them into future releases, the stories, ready to go set, or how does that work? Is it easy to somehow through that UI to switch?
No, well, you can so switch like to move them from release 1 to release 2.
Right.
Well, I'm not sure if you. No, let me take a look at it. Where is it? Okay, here it is. I lost my mouse in this for a second. Well, you can if it doesn't provide you with a drag and drop like way of doing it, you can always double click on it and change it manually, like from the drop down, like in here. Like in this case, we only have release 1. Like if you have release 2, you can expand that and just assign it there. Any other questions? So I'm done. Oh, go ahead.
Is there like a, when you finish your sprint, is it a report? So, is there anything like what you can kind of quantify things in like, you were initially booked for this many hours, you guys can do these yesterday. There's always the thing, and for instance, puts back to some point, which is like, we suck at, guesstimations and plans, right? And, like every time I sit down with the team, like, how long do you think it's going to take? They say something mentally like that, like, is there anything in here that helps?
Well, you have the burn down chart. Yeah. It tells you that it started with this. But even if you check, the thing is, the backlog will be adjusted. So the burn down chart will be adjusted if you, let's say you have a task that you estimated that it takes 3 hours, and then you change to 5. The backlog will be adjusted.
Is there a way where people put in and note the amount of time that they spend? A way to record
The
the
actual time? I don't think the web artist does the web artist allow you that?
It'd be useful to know. We've estimated that at the end.
Does the web artist
The way it's supposed to work is
estimated 5
when we first started out, the estimates may be very bad.
Yeah.
But as your team goes through the iterations, the forecasting should get better.
So you don't get a report that
Because at the very beginning, the developers were very, like, conquer the world, and I can work 100 hours, I just get that feature done,
In
go
an
out,
hour,
and then
yeah.
they start to go through. So as they go through the iterations, the forecasting gets better and better, and the tool will actually start to do it more reliably.
That's really helpful. Just ask me to me.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So are you using this decline, sort of decline you use for the talk? Or not? Showing the Scrum talk?
Okay, one of the things that I didn't mention that TFS2012 comes in three flavors. It comes with the cloud version, which is the TFSVisualStudio.com, which is currently free for up to 5 users. I think you can still go above the 5 users if you like to pay because it's still kind of beta. The nice thing about the WebEx, the cloud version, that
It's not there.
oh sorry, it's not like it's released, but it's still not.
Still free.
Yeah, it's production, but they didn't. Microsoft didn't decide on the pricing yet on the plan. And the nice thing about it that the cloud version will get the updates or the new features every 3 weeks. So it seems that their team is running 3 weeks back. So we're getting a new feature
Or a new bug.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Or you have
They have a blog for that.
every 3 weeks. There is the express version, which is also free, and you don't need license for that.
So the nice thing about the free thing is you also can pay for them.
Well, you
Price
gotta
to pay.
Yeah, well, for now, yeah. But then with the cloud version, from what I remember, there will be a free version for up to 5 users. They still did, Microsoft did still work out the limitations for the free version. Like I think they're gonna limit the number of throws you can do. I don't know, a day or a month. So they just go to tfs.visualstudio.com to learn more about the plan or the plans they're gonna have and the free version for that. There's the express version, which is you can use for up to 5 users for free. And if you want to go beyond the 5 users, then you can buy a license. So you can still use the express version for more than 5 users. But you need to see is it worth it or not. And from what I read, I think the way it's advertised, it's good for up to 200 that it should handle it without scaling out the servers. But with Express, it only works on one server. And with the Express version of Super Server, you have to have everything in one box. You can have your team build to run on a build server that allows you to do that. But the SQL server has to be Express, and everything else to be on one box, no SharePoint, there are other limitations. Actually, I have a blog post about the difference between the 3 versions. And then there's the full version, which is the TFS version, which requires a license to be able to use it. So, yeah, in regard to my clients, I've used the cloud one, and I only use the cloud one, and for my 30 blogs in 30 days, I'm using all of them.
Oh, they're all about that.
3 days behind, 3 blogs behind. But because of this presentation, it's because of this presentation, because it caught me off guard. I wasn't planning for this month. So, so the last 3 days I was working on this.
The last version we're talking about is the Pro or something?
Which is the full version, yes. It's not they didn't name it, it's just that Microsoft doesn't have a name for it. It's just Team Foundation Server 2012. They're not Express version. Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff that you're only using, but
So this is all 2012, yes.
is it possible to just upgrade your first, upgrade your first?
It works with Visual Studio 2010. I believe it works with 28 as well. It works with 28, right? TFS 2012.
Sorry. So 2012 runs on 2008 R2.
For Visual Studio.
Visual Studio is the same.
It works with all Visual Studios or just 2010, 2012?
2008, 2010, you can get the clients up There's updates. There's updates for each one.
Oh, you.
And then you can run, it doesn't support 2005, but you can do 2008, 2010, yeah. You may not, you don't get some of the new, like the local workspace features, if you don't have the 2012 client. Right? Because that's one of the big features, right? So it works like CBS or SVN, right? So there's no actual connection to your workspace for the server. But you need a 2012 client for that.
And this is my blog, lajack.wordpress.com, and
I'll try to do a blog post tonight to catch up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's recorded actually. So, thank you.